Welcome to another Indie Dev Spotlight video here on the channel. We're now doing weekly Spotlight streams every Wednesday, and if you'd like to submit a game for a future one, please don't hesitate to get in touch. We are going to be seeing our games from the Steam Spring Festival of Games. And we're starting off with the very interesting puzzle game, Filament. So with Filament here, our chief mechanic, our prime puzzle, is that our little robot has this wire or filament that attaches around him. And your job is to use that rope, or use that, to connect to all the various nodes on the field. Now the idea is that the filament itself kind of operates with somewhat real-world, elasticity. So how you bend it around and which things you go around first will determine the order or how it will connect to it. So as you can see right there, because I didn't do it right, it's not reaching, or it's not basically bending to hit that specific thing. All the puzzles in the game are handmade, so there are no RNG elements or things along those lines. And the story itself follows that we are exploring a space station that went dark, and there's only one person left, and it's up to us to kind of figure out what's going on while returning functionality to the ship. Now, with that said though, this is not a scary game or anything along those lines, so you don't have to worry about aliens or things trying to get you. All the puzzles again rely or revolve around using this filament here. One of the more interesting aspects of the puzzle design is that you do have to kind of figure out what order to do things in, and how some aspects are essentially red herrings that don't really help you with that puzzle. And the space station itself occupies a space as being the hub or overworld for these puzzles, as well as having hidden lore and additional challenges that you can find as you explore around. I really enjoy this one. We probably spent the most time on this game during our actual stream spotlight. And this is one of those games that, again, the footage that you're seeing when I show the puzzles, it looks like I solved these very quickly, but no, it definitely took some time and a whole lot of brain power to get through some of it. The best part about Filament is how this very basic element, or this very basic mechanic of puzzle solving, provides many different variations thanks to creative use of environmental design and new elements as you play through. In this section, the challenge is that the actual walls will come up if there is nothing, or the filament is not blocking it. So the puzzle then becomes, how do I get all the nodes on while still providing me with a way to actually leave the area once I've won it. And yeah, again, this can get very brain melty, as you can see right here. But definitely, this is one of those puzzle games that I really enjoyed. It definitely feels like it is firing on all cylinders in terms of its design. And again, even from this demo, we certainly got a lot out of this game. And I would say if you are looking for a puzzle game, especially again one that is going to challenge you, definitely keep an eye out on Filament. And hopefully we'll be able to play more of this on stream, and everybody can make fun of how horrible I am in terms of the puzzle solutions. The only, I think, real nitpick, as you saw right there, is that sometimes it can be a little tricky in terms of lining things up. Just like this, a little difference in terms of how you approach a node can affect, where you're able to move and get around. But other than that, I definitely enjoyed this one. I'll be looking forward to seeing how things develop when it gets released. But with that, let's move on to our next game. And we turn to a roguelike that is kind of set in a world of freelancers, apps, and contract work. And this is Going Under. The idea is that we are an intern at a major corporation, and we've been hired to do some freelance work for this company. And unfortunately, that freelance work involves fighting a troll company that has taken control over the basement of our place. And yeah, if you're expecting lots of memes and jokes about automation, reviewing apps, and so on, then you got the idea. So, the gameplay itself involves exploring the procedurally generated basement, fighting off enemies, and hopefully not dying. You can pick up anything and everything as a weapon, with each thing that you pick up having a different weapon rating. You can also charge attacks, as well as avoid enemies and make use of apps, which are kind of your quote-unquote spells. My issue with the game, from as we played it, for one thing, the demo itself was kind of limited in terms of what we were able to see, but I had some problems with the controls. The game wants you to be doing camera manipulation as well as moving and aiming, and I was having some problem keeping track of everything. As you can see, unlike a game like Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon, which is a top-down view, this game goes for more of the 3/4 kind of partial isometric viewpoint. What that means is that it's very easy in the larger rooms for enemies to attack you off screen or get you before you're able to respond to it. And it was kind of hard to aim at specific enemies. Now, we were using the keyboard and mouse, so it may have been easier to play this on control pad, and I think or gamepad. I think I may have actually switched at one point during the spotlights. And it definitely felt easier on the gamepad, but it wasn't as refined or as fine-tuned as I would like for a game of this kind. And it was very easy for enemies to gang up on you or attack you just out of your range. And with the variety of various tools and such, we didn't really see if there was any kind of persistence. Again, with this being a demo of the game that was supposed to be at, I think, one of the cons, we weren't exactly going to be seeing too much in that aspect, but I'm curious to see what they're going to do to kind of promote long-term play, because at this moment, I didn't really see a lot in this particular version. I will say I like the aesthetics. I kind of like this very, I'm not sure what kind of style we would describe this one as. I was going to say pop art, but that definitely doesn't seem right. Kind of like very cartoony look to it. But I'm wondering if there is going to be co-op of any kind. Now, the only thing that we saw that kind of did mix things up on each play is that besides the apps, you do get to choose from different passive upgrades, such as allowing you to get more health from food, earn more money, etc., etc. And I really did like kind of like this theme as you're trying to do your work through this app here. And I'm wondering what they're going to do with the story as you get further in. But we're going to do our quick Patreon supporter and sponsor shout out break now, and come back and we'll take a look at one more game for this video. And now for a quick shout out to our current Game Wisdom supporters and sponsors. Going forward, all Patreon supporters will get early access to our videos. And if you'd like to continue this discussion on game design, be sure to check out our Discord channel, link down below. If you're looking for more wisdom about game design, be sure to check out my latest offering of books, 20 Essential Games to Study, aimed for first-time developers and students looking for some inspiration for their upcoming games, and Game Design Deep Dive Platformers if you're interested in anything regarding 2D and 3D platforming design. They're both available in print, digital, and wherever books are being sold. For the final game of our Spotlight video recap, this is Backworlds, an action puzzle game whose chief mechanic revolves around essentially painting over the world itself and allowing things to kind of phase in and out of certain objects. There doesn't seem to be much of an overall connecting story. We're collecting these kinds of paintballs, or like these paint orbs there, that act as our, prerequisite MacGuffin for this game. And the world itself is kind of left open somewhat non-linearly. It kind of revolves around the idea that each kind of gate has multiple puzzles that are attached to it. You don't have to do all the puzzles unless you're going for 100% completion, but you need to collect a specific number of those paint orbs. to then move on to the next. And the idea is that certain things will occupy different space or will react differently based on what dimension they're in, either the colored one or the black and white or gray one. Now, besides the color changing or the painting mechanic of the game, you can move around, run, jump, and you're able to push and pull blocks. Now, from what we played of the demo, you're going to have to kind of figure out how to get the blocks and manipulate them into certain positions in order to then make use of them in the environment or in different ways. From the Steam page and just general description of the game, this one seems to be aimed more as kind of a younger audience puzzle game, especially compared to the brain meltingness of something like Filament earlier in this video. But that doesn't mean that the game doesn't provide some interesting challenges with its puzzle design. There are a few enemies that will show or that did show up during this demo, but there is no penalty of death or your character getting hurt or anything like that. Now, the one kind of complaint that I have about the game is that some of the puzzles do rely a lot on very slow cycles and patterns to solve. For this one in particular, you have to move the various objects to get into certain positions to compensate for where that kind of beetle or wherever that flying bug is going to be, as well as trying to get them to go into the right spot. So if you mess up, you have to repeat the entire cycle. And this could prove to be a little bit more annoying for kind of the younger audiences. Part of it has to do with how the paint mechanic works. It's a very wide brush, so it can be very easy sometimes to accidentally paint over more than what you need, and the object gets stuck or the character gets stuck, and then you have to unpaint it or go over it again, repeat, and you get the picture. During the kind of quote-unquote final puzzle that we saw in the demo, it definitely got a little bit on the more annoying side to go through this, as you have to make use of this kind of animal or this enemy here to propel your character through different areas. And it's done through kind of its own simulated physics model. But it's one of those sections that, again, that if you mess up at a point, you have to repeat the whole thing over again. But with that said, Backworlds is an enjoyable game. Again, this is definitely aimed for a younger audience, but it's got a very endearing aesthetic and design to it. The music kind of reminds me of some of the stuff I heard from in Braid. And I'll be curious to see kind of where developers take this in terms of either elevating the gameplay or adding more of a story or just general theme to it. But with that said, we're going to wrap up this recap video here. I'll include links to all the games with their store pages down in the description below. And trust me, we got plenty more games to be covering in future videos. And again, we do weekly indie dev spotlight streams Wednesday nights. If you'd like to submit a game for me to take a look at, please don't hesitate to get in touch and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Have a great night, everybody, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoy things, be sure to do all the liking and subscribing that the kids are doing these days. Check out our Discord channel link down below where we hang out and chat game design, and come back later tonight for our regular streamings. But that's it, and tune in for more great content here and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.